All right. What's going on? Shemaine Diamond K. Welcome back. Welcome back. TheDiamondKShow.com on fire TV. Everybody. Uh Man, I really hate when we have a mass shooting like this. It is just it's more of the same, right? We have loss of life. You're going to have folks that want to talk about gun control and the such, and then you're going to have Republicans, say, "Oh, it's not the time to talk about this," and thoughts and prayers, and they're going to go through that whole thing. Now, mind you, when you talk about protecting kids that are alive in schools and the such, Republicans don't want to talk about it, but they want to talk about protecting, a fetus more than they want to talk about this. We need to protect everybody as much as possible. But, assault weapons, weapons of war, do they need to be on the street? Do they need to be on the street? I don't know. I don't know if that is where weapons of war need to be. And over again, we are here. Exactly. On Instagram, Strictly Business 330 is saying they want to talk about the lyrics and songs, though. That is true. They want to talk about Young Thug's lyrics, and I suppose that they're going to talk about Gunna's lyrics and the such. But when it really comes to protecting innocence in this country, because this is the only country that this happens in mass like this. This is the only country in the West that happens like this. And they want to talk about mental health. They want to talk about all these things. All of these obstacles exist in other countries, but this is the only country where it's running rampant. And then we use it as an excuse for poor behavior, bad behavior, murderous behavior. 21 people, 19 children thus far slaughtered in an elementary school shooting. Now, of course, these things become politicized. Beto O'Rourke, Texas Democratic gubernatorial candidate, confronted the governor, Republican Greg Abbott, at a press conference today following this murder. As I said, that left 21 people, including 19 children, dead. Strictly Business 330 says, what is running a background check going to do? These mass murderers aren't felons. And I think that is a fair question, but here's the thing. A background check will, in some instances, catch, there's sometimes there are red flags here. There was some type of interaction with the police. We need to look at the mental health. We need to see if there's anything in the immediate background that could be a red flag for this. Now, is it going to stop everything? No, it's not. It's not going to stop everything. Nothing's going to stop everything, right? Nothing's going to stop everything. But so many times there are instances where if someone took another look before this person was given a weapon legally, then maybe it could have been prevented. And my thing is that there is no one button fix for everything. But why are people so against starting the process? Oh, people so against that. Oh, no. Oh, we can't do that because that wouldn't stop all mass murderers. Nothing's going to stop all mass murders. But that's not a reason to not do anything at all. We're supposed to not do anything because one thing's not going to stop everything. Right? Now, every instance is not because you're gonna point to some things where that would not have helped. Right? And yes, they could have had an interaction and they were released a year ago, all that kind of stuff. But when they're trying to buy a gun now, you need to look at the record. We need to look at something, right? We need to look at something. We need to look at the mental health of the person, and then you look at the record, and maybe you can possibly curb something. But to sit back and every time we have a mass murder, we just had one 9 days ago. To sit back every time and say, oh, can't do anything, thoughts and prayers, can't do anything, thoughts and prayers, can't do anything, thoughts and prayers. They can stop everything else from happening. They can already stop y'all from sharing your Netflix passwords. Ain't no thoughts and prayers about that. They say, we don't want people to share the passwords, and they're going to stop it from happening. But this country that can put people on the moon and put stuff in Mars and throughout the galaxy, we can't come up with nothing to stop anything. Mass murder, our hands are tied. We can't do nothing. There's something that we can do. We can do a conglomeration of things. You have people speeding in front of schools. They find a way to try to slow it down. They put cameras in front of the schools and start giving people tickets, and then people start driving slow. At least in front of the schools where you know it's cameras at, they start driving slower. Mysteriously, we can stop that. We can stop that, but we can't stop people from getting killed or killing kids or slow it down or put up some type of repercussions. Something we can't do nothing. Nothing. We just all of the inventions that we have. And we can, this is right here is the one thing that we can do. We can't stop this. No, it is not in the interest of politicians to stop it. So the lobbyists for the NRA trot people out. Sometimes they're politicians. Sometimes they are just lobbyists. And they spit this rhetoric. And then other people start reciting and regurgitating the same rhetoric. That is what happens. And then people start to believe that there's nothing that can be done about the mass murder. I'm telling you, that's not true. That's not true. Here in Baltimore, I'm going to go back a couple of years. After clubs let out, people used to just drive around downtown. They just used to drive around downtown. And it would create gridlock, and it would be fun. Sometimes that was more fun, the driving around certain areas downtown in, traffic jam. Like this is late at night. You used to do that, playing music, people walking up and down the street, walking up to cars, all that kind of stuff, right? And, so you had partying, people that would do that after party, right? After the letouts. And after a while, the city of Baltimore wanted to put an end to this driving around. So they passed these laws called no cruising. There became they made a law, no cruising. They started this no cruising thing, and they ended the driving around of folks after the club. You started circling around and things like that. They made this law stopping that. They ended it, right? They saw a problem, or what they saw was a problem, because I thought it was fun. But they saw something that they wanted to end, city of Baltimore, and they passed the law and ended it, right? Now, that was an easy fix. Now, yes, that moved things to other places, but they stopped it from happening in the downtown area, which is what they wanted to do. My point is very simple. If they want to stop the mass murders, there are steps that they can start taking to attempt to do that. Now, is it a one-button fix? No. But they're not doing anything. They're not even trying. It's not like they're even trying and failing. They're just sitting and saying, oh, thoughts and prayers, and then they're just moving on. That, I'm telling you, is not right. And if we have Democrats that are too weak to even try to do anything, I mean, they're not offering any words other than thoughts and prayers and thoughts, right? If they're not doing anything, and Republicans are sitting there, oh no, the NRA, we love the NRA, we ain't doing nothing. Get them out of there then. We need to get these people out of there. Democrats are too weak. Republicans are too greedy. We need to get all of them out of there and get some new people in there that got some new ideas. Part of the reason why nothing gets done is because half of the politicians are 70 or 80 years old. You're too old. Your time is done. Let's get them out of there. Why do we have all of these geriatric, old ass people who's already lived their lives and don't give two craps about what happens with you? They're just trying to hoard as much money as they can. That's all they're doing. We got a whole bunch of old ass people, and we trying to say, do something fast. They ain't doing nothing because they're too damn old. It's time to turn over and get some new blood in there, right? Because all of these 70, 80 years old, Joe Biden, too damn old. Trump, too damn old. Nancy Pelosi, too damn old. I mean, we can go down the whole list. They too damn old. Right? That's part of the problem. That's a small part, but that is part of the problem. Now, I still want you to participate in elections because we need to vote these old people out. We need to vote these old people out. A lot of people that think that they're so-called average can run for office. You're more qualified than these old ass people. Pick the oldest person in your family, and you wouldn't even make them in charge of the family reunion. You wouldn't make the oldest person in your family in charge of the family reunion. You still love them, right? But you're like, look, grandma can't do this. You know what I mean? We can get another person to do it. But we got these old people in charge of our lives. They already lived their life. And they're too old to be in charge. Just like you wouldn't put the baby in the family in charge of the car. These old people are usually too old to even drive. Right? Now, what somebody on Instagram said, qualified, but don't have the resources or the money to compete with old money. You don't have to have all of that. Right? So let's talk about in some of these grassroots. Let's talk about in some of these local elections. Right? A lot of these local elections are not big money elections. Some of the local city council, the mayor's race, big money in comparison to a nationally run campaign like the presidency, right? I ain't talking the presidency right now. Let's talk about in your local government, in your state government. Some people can come and really turn some things over. It can happen. Because most people don't vote, right? Most people don't vote. And when you talk about money, what is that money spent on? That money is spent on advertising on TV and radio networks, right? Let's bypass that. That's not the only way to advertise. That's the old way of advertising, right? That's the way that it's always been done. But that's not the only things. Signs, flyers, posters, handout leaflets, t-shirts. These are the things that they're buying with the money, right? And so it's about advertising. So yeah, it would cause some people to push up their sleeves, get out there and do some work, knock on the doors, talk to some people. But we're so quick to just throw our hands up and say, we don't have a shot. It's old money. It's always been like this. And we can't do anything else. And that's what they want you to do. That's what they want you to do. They want you to think that nothing else can be done. The only person that can run is some old ass people. Some people that are way past retirement age. But they're supposed to be the ones controlling the world? No. I heard Joe Biden talk yesterday about this mass murder, about this shooting. And yes, he's lost 2 children. He lost a daughter in a car crash. He lost his son, and she was as a child, and then he lost his son years ago as an adult, right? And he is very sympathetic. He is empathetic. He's passionate. He's really good when speaking about loss of life and grief and other things, right? And so, when those moments happen, it shows, those are one of his strengths. But when it comes to really, yes, I have run for office, and yes, I have worked with politicians and campaigns before. on Instagram. They're telling me why young people can't run or something, and why old people have to be the ones to run. They're telling me that it can't be done. It can't be. I guess you're telling me that it can't be done. It's only happened one way all the time, and that's the only way they can happen. AOC didn't have any money. There are plenty of candidates that don't have money that can get elected and beat incumbents. It can definitely happen. No, I didn't. I did not. And so, my thing is that I know that I'm not the best person to run. And let me tell you why. I'm not the best person to run because I'm not willing to do all that is required. I'm very good at critiquing other candidates and really good at critiquing the news, right? I'm good at critiquing and telling people what needs to happen. I'm good at saying, you need to do this, but I'm not going to do it, right? Right? I'm not going to do it. I like to talk a certain kind of way. I like to surround myself with certain people, right? I like to make music that is not necessarily reflective of the person who should be in charge. I like to hang at parties that maybe a politician shouldn't be hanging at, right? I like to rub shoulders with people that you wouldn't want your mayor to be rubbing shoulders with. I have some friends who are gangsters, right? I do some things that won't make me the best candidate, right? However, I can recognize that the system in its current state is not working. Now, some people can just sit back and they are, okay, so Kimber is saying, I know people that are running who have the skills, but not the money to win the ballot. Now, here's the thing. They and having the skills, that's part of it. Now, what they have to do is build a coalition. They have to come up with a strategy. Just running for the sake of running, that's like a singer who's talented and wants to make a record, but doesn't go to a studio and does it in a basement. Which you can still make a record in the basement, right? But I'm saying that doesn't make it on good equipment, but just because they don't have a big studio, they're just defeated and think that they cannot do anything. And so just because you don't have a state-of-the-art studio doesn't mean that you can't have a hit record and come up with great songs. And just because you don't have a major budget, so I don't know what office the people that you are referring to are running for, but I would love for you to DM me and we talk about this more. I'm saying that just because the politicians, I don't like I said, I don't know who you're referring to. Talk to me behind the scenes, because I'm not saying that it's impossible for whatever politician you're talking about to win. And maybe they're running for the wrong office. Maybe they need to target a politician that is vulnerable. Maybe we need to come up with a strategy. And I would love to, like I said, speak to you behind the scenes. Either DM me or email me, djdiamondk@gmail.com, and let's talk about this. Because if you have a good candidate who just doesn't have money, we can figure something out and target somebody and put them in a good place, because there are a lot of candidates. I'm just talking about in Baltimore City. There are a lot of candidates in Baltimore City who are incumbents who need to go. And if we have somebody who is good but just doesn't have the money, then maybe we need to raise some money. Maybe we need to do some fundraising. Maybe we need to plan some things and get them in position. Because a lot of these people that are in position now, they started exactly where you are referring to, and they got where they needed to go. And sometimes they made deals with, bad, dark money, right? I ain't talking about doing that. I'm talking about us doing grassroots things or making, building coalitions on the honorable side of things, not just the dark side of things. And yes, that's the R, and they're both in Baltimore. Good. I would love to talk to you and talk to them behind, like I said, behind the scenes. Either DM me, the Diamond K Show on Instagram, or email me at djdiamondk@gmail.com. I am looking forward to talking with you about that. So Memorial Day weekend, I'm going to be in New York and Brooklyn on Friday, So I'm going to be spinning at a rave. See why I can't be running for office? I'm going to be DJing at a rave party in Brooklyn on Friday. Okay, so yeah, I'm definitely not the one to run, but I can consult, I can fundraise for, and I'm definitely going to get on the show and talk about things. So we're going to be at the Sugar Hill Supper Club on Friday night, and I'm going to be in New York spinning Baltimore club music. So that's always fun whenever I can do that in New York, and I've done that plenty of times in New York. So what happens is that in other cities they love Baltimore club music, right? But they don't know how to play it. So they need a local, right? They need a local and somebody like myself who has made club music for years and also spun in some of the biggest nightclubs in the city. They need somebody like that. So I like when they get someone from here, whether it's Scotty B, whether it's Rod Lee, whether it's myself, or somebody who is knows how to spin Baltimore club music correctly to go, right? Because it's like somebody who's not from DC trying to play go-go. It just we could play a couple of the records, but we can't spin the go-go music like a go-go DJ, right? It's kind of like that. The reggae, right? I've heard Baltimore DJ spin reggae, and some of us are good, right? But then I've heard, a authentic reggae DJ play it, totally different. Knocked it out the park. All right, knocked it out the park. So that's what I'm going to do on Friday in Brooklyn at the Sugar Hill Supper Club. Shout out to all the folks there. So yeah, we're gonna have some footage for that. This Saturday, of course, my mix on the On Fire Mix Show will drop, and then we're also going to do a mix on Memorial Day Monday on fire-tv.com, also on Instagram, also on youtube.com/DJ Diamond K, also on Facebook. All right, so we were talking about elections. We're talking about all kind of things. Campaign wise, Donald Trump had a rough night last night. Donald Trump had a rough night. Trump's candidates and his 2020 election claims of fraud. He was a big loser last night. Former President Donald Trump. He had his roughest night of the midterm cycle so far yesterday. Roughest night. His chosen candidates in some marquee races in Georgia, a state that he has been fixated on. If you remember his 2020 loss, right? It fell far short. His opponents smashed them. He smashed them. Multiple contests. The incumbents who resisted Trump's efforts to challenge the 2020 presidential election results held, listen to this, double-digit leads over candidates who built campaigns around the former president's lies about the 2020 election. So you had candidates who were riding the Trump coattails, talking about this election was stolen from Donald Trump. They built their whole campaign on that big lie. The big lie is what they call it. And they were big losers last night. Big losers. The biggest loss for Trump was in the state's gubernatorial GOP primary, where Georgia Governor Brian Kemp bested former Senator David Perdue, who Trump, was significantly invested in. The governor, Kemp, beat him by more than 50 points, right? Beat him by more than 50 points. Perdue centered much of his campaign around Trump's 2020 unfounded, unproven lies that voter fraud cost him a victory in Georgia in 2020. And also, he also promoted that the governor, Kemp, could have reversed the election results. I mean, it is really lame to base your 2022 campaign on a lie from 2020. Yeah, but that's what's happened. That is exactly what happened. Kemp, meanwhile, did not directly take on former President Trump. Instead, what he did was focus on pushing the slate of conservative policies that he's been pushing while in office. And I do not think that he's been a good governor, for the record. But he definitely pushed abortion restrictions, loosening gun laws, and definitely pointed out Purdue's loss at the 2021 Senate runoff race. So he ran a smart campaign, considering that he was running against David Perdue, who is clearly not a good politician. All right. And he's from that chicken family, Purdue chicken, right? He's from that family. Now, he may know chicken, but he does not know politics. And clearly all he's been doing, DJ Khaled often talked about all he does is win. All Purdue does is lose. Okay. All Purdue does is lose. So beyond his endorsement, Trump funneled more than $3 million to a pro-Purdue group through his leadership PAC, appeared at a rally for Purdue, held a fundraiser for him at Mar-a-Lago, and recorded robocalls. See, that's what I was talking about earlier. Just because you have money doesn't mean that you know what to spend it on. Purdue had all the money in the world, but he couldn't get elected dog catcher. It doesn't matter how much money he has. He's just not, a likable guy. He doesn't like the campaign. He's not charismatic. Purdue, I'm talking about. So it doesn't matter what kind of money you put behind him. He's not going to win. He's not going to win. Ultimately, it was clear that all of this money, all of this hoopla, Trump's endorsement was not enough. Late in the race, Kemp was surpassing the 50% threshold needed to avoid a runoff. Purdue acknowledged late in the race that he might not win, but said, "I guarantee you I'm not down 30 points." He lost by 50. He lost by 50. Kemp easily cleared the runoff bar by getting 74% of the vote. He got 73, so almost 74% of the vote. He smashed them. Lower on the ballot, Georgia's Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger fended off, his challenge. He had a challenge. Raffensperger was the one that Trump called and said, I need you to get me these votes, right? You remember that? That was like a big deal when that happened. He didn't do it, and so Trump has this axe to grind against Raffensperger. So he props up another candidate who he thought was going to win. Rep. Jody Heiss had Trump support, did not do anything. Had money, did not do anything, right? It takes more than money. Sometimes you can prop up the wrong candidate. And being the incumbent is an advantage. It can be to your detriment as well. It just depends. So Raffensperger famously rebuffed Trump's request to find him the votes needed to reverse Biden's victory in 2020. So when he didn't do that, he became the target of former President Trump. So his margin of victory was, smaller, narrower, but he still beat Heiss by nearly 20 points and got over 52% of the vote, also avoiding a runoff. And let me talk about runoffs for a minute, because a lot of these southern states have a runoff, but in the North, runoff is not something that is often talked about. So I want to talk a little bit about the racist history of a runoff election. Now, the runoff election is something from the old days, right? It's something from the old days, and it's something that was used in the South to try to control who won, right? And try to stop black politicians from getting ahead. And so it is like a second round. It's like you win, and then you need to win again, right? You need to win again. Some states have an instant runoff. If candidates don't meet a certain threshold, then they have to run again, run another election, a second election, right? And it is not something, like I said, that you see everywhere. So it essentially, if no candidate receives the majority of the vote, then you have the runoff, right? Now, if you get the majority, more than 50%, or your threshold is significant, then you do what is called avoiding the runoff. Avoiding the runoff. Definitely something that you want to do, because after the runoff, then you have to turn right back around and run again in the general election. So initially, candidates will be running against another candidate in their own party. So Democrats right now are running against Democrats. Republicans are running against Republicans. And they're trying to find out who's going to be the finalist for the Democrats, who's going to be the finalist for the Republicans for a certain office. When you find out who the finalist is for the Democrats and who the finalist is for the Republicans, then those finalists are going to face each other in the playoffs, right? In the finals in November, which is the general election. So you have the primaries, which focus on individual parties. And then you have the general election, which focuses and pits the Republican against the Democrat. So that's what's happening right now. So last night, as I said, in Georgia, Trump critics, including myself, are basking in his losses, right? Basking in his losses. It is what it is. Now, Trump did have some wins Tuesday night, including in Georgia. But these big races that I was really focused on, like the governor's race, Trump's candidate did not win. So we're going to talk about his losses. We got to talk about some of his victories. And Herschel Walker, former football star, was Trump's chosen pick in the Senate GOP primary. And he skated to the Republican nomination. All right. He skated to that nomination. Herschel Walker, the football player, right? You know, times are crazy, right? Now, I definitely was a fan of Herschel Walker, the football player. Herschel Walker, the politician, I just don't know. What up, DJ Nutty? Herschel Walker, the candidate, okay, so we know his football career, right? We know Herschel Walker was definitely a force to be reckoned with regards to football. Now, in the Senate, that's a scary prospect. Sarah Huckabee Sanders, Trump's former press secretary, you remember her. She won the Arkansas Gubernatorial GOP primary with ease. It looks like she's probably going to be the next governor of Arkansas. Now, Trump is still undoubtedly the de facto leader of the Republican Party. The polls continue to show that he should run for president again in 2024. Based on the support that he's receiving, that's probably what he's going to do. He'd likely outrun his competition by big numbers, big numbers. But Tuesday night's election results in Georgia showed that voters take more into account when entering in the voting booth than just who Donald Trump prefers in any given race. And that at least is good. Now, this is particularly true if his chosen candidates are running against incumbents with, conservative credentials. That's what these Republicans are thinking. Now, days until the midterm elections, 167. The countdown is on for these November races. Now, we're talking about races. The waiting game in Pennsylvania, it's still going on. So they're going to court. In Pennsylvania, the Senate GOP primary is very chaotic. And the litigation over a week-old race still. Celebrity surgeon Dr. Oz and the former hedge fund manager Dave McCormick are neck and neck. Less than 1,000 votes in a race that is heading to a recount. Neither side is backing down. I think that Dr. Oz is going to win this. McCormick's campaign is suing to have election count ballots, the mail-in ones, thrown out without the written date on the envelope that were received on or before Election Day. Dr. Oz, with the help of the state's GOP and the RNC, is arguing that the ballots should be rejected. So they have this whole thing. They're going back and forth about this. Dr. Oz wants the ballots rejected. McCormick wants to keep the ballots. McCormick currently outperforming Oz in mail-in ballots. And the result of the lawsuit could significantly sway the Senate primary, given how the narrow margin is between these two candidates. So that is something that is heading to court. The election was last week. We still don't know the winner of that one. So on top of all that, the court battle is opening a broader divide within the GOP over mail-in voting and what they call election integrity. So the state Republican Party said in a statement earlier this week that we absolutely object to counting the undated mail-in ballots and called upon everyone to respect, uphold, and follow the clear law on this issue. So you have some mail-in ballots that don't have any dates on them. Those ballots should be thrown out. There's no date. We need a postmark date. We need they don't have the date written, but they have the postmark date. So you have that. I mean, there's no date, but I mean, we got a postmark date. So it's they're grasping at straws here. Obviously, the Republicans are going to fight this tooth and nail. So I don't know when we're going to know the results to this. Now, the Conservative National Review ran an op-ed saying that the ballots should be counted, noting that each vote is time-stamped when the state election official received it by mail. So shout out to DJ Concrete. Friday, we have Really Honest Rap Show. So I'm going to be in Brooklyn Friday for this event that I'm DJing at, this rave that I'm DJing at in Brooklyn. But we're still going to do the show. So we're still going to do the show. I don't go on until 11. Show is at 8. I do have a sound check at 7. So we'll talk behind the scenes about that and how we're going to make that work. So, you have some disagreement. I do understand with regards to the Conservative National Review running their op-ed saying that the ballots should be counted because each vote is time-stamped when the state election official received it by mail. Now, the only problem that I would say, and I'm obviously not an attorney for the Conservative National Review, But if I'm an opposing campaign, I would want that count to have been done, or that date to have been done by the voter, right? So you have that extra thing of when the ballot was received, but you would also like to see something about when it was mailed from the actual voter. So, I mean, this is going to be tricky. The ultimate nominee will face Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman, who is currently recovering from a stroke. He's a Democrat in this November general election. On Wednesday, Pennsylvania's acting Secretary of State officially announced a recount in the race. So there we have that. A lot of things going on with regards to the elections. We talked about Beto O'Rourke confronting Governor Abbott about guns, and we talked about Beto O'Rourke before. He ran for president, and now he is running for governor. He is the Democratic gubernatorial candidate. So he confronts Greg Abbott, Republican, at a press conference today following this shooting that left 21 people, including 19 children, dead. So Abbott had been providing information on mental health and all of this in the wake of the shooting when Beto O'Rourke rushed up to the podium. "You are doing nothing," O'Rourke said, only a few feet away from Abbott. "You said this was not predictable. This was totally predictable, and you chose not to do anything," O'Rourke said. This is the most fire I've ever seen from Beto O'Rourke. And, some people may say this was a political stunt. I don't think it was. I think that he needed to confront the governor on this issue. And, so the mayor could be heard yelling, "Sir, you are out of line. Please leave this auditorium." O'Rourke, who built much of his brand around gun control, was eventually escorted from the auditorium, but it presented the picture that I think that he wanted to show. So we're going to continue to see that. That's going to be a very interesting race in November. Beto O'Rourke versus Greg Abbott. Now, Democrats spotlight some of the things with regards to the NRA, the rating. They have a tight runoff in Texas. There is so much going on. So much going on. Just tuning in, your man Diamond K in here. Of course, the DiamondKShow.com, onfire-tv.com. We are talking about elections and results from yesterday's primaries. And Maryland has its own primary election that is creeping up on us. July 19th is as when it all goes down, or when it starts. A lot of candidates coming up, and we're going to be interviewing several candidates in several races. But the election is coming up, and then we have, after that, you got November 8th, 2022, election day. It is an interesting time, and we have so many things that are going on. So many things that are affecting, or should affect, or could affect outcome, turnout, enthusiasm, all of this kind of stuff. No, Democrats are not single issue voters. They're not. Republicans are focused and all of that. But they are coming out now and saying that the Texas gunman said he was going to shoot up the school. The gunman who massacred these 19 children and 2 teachers yesterday in Texas warned online, sent this message sent minutes before the attack, that he had shot his grandmother and he was going to shoot up the school, the governor said. So this is we're talking about Governor Abbott. It is very. It's just a sad situation that we're talking about, but there are all type of horrifying conspiracies swirling around this Texas shooting. By now, it's as predictable as the calls for thoughts and prayers. A mass shooting leaves many dead, and wild conspiracy theories and misinformation about the carnage follow. This is the pattern. It happened after Sandy Hook. It happened after Parkland. It happened after the Orlando nightclub shooting. It happened after Buffalo. Within hours of yesterday's shooting, another rash began as the internet began spreading baseless claims about the man named as the gunman and his possible motives. Unfounded claims that the gunman was an immigrant living in the U.S. illegally or was transgender quickly started to emerge on Twitter. They were accompanied by the very familiar conspiracy theories suggesting that the entire shooting was somehow staged. All of this is not true. All of this is not true. Now, the claims reflect broader problems with racism and tolerance towards transgender people and are an effort to blame the shooting on a minority group who already endure higher rates of online harassment and hate crimes already, right? So you have this. This is a tactic, and this tactic serves two purposes. It avoids real conversations about the issue, which is gun violence, and it gives people who don't want to face reality a patsy. It gives them somebody to blame, right? And of course, in the hours after the shooting, posts falsely claimed that the gunman was living in the country illegally. And that started to go viral, with some users adding embellishments, including that he was on the run from Border Patrol. Authorities say that the shooting was carried out by an 18-year-old, Salvador Ramos, who is a U.S. citizen. The Governor Abbott said yesterday in a press conference. Other social media users seized on images of innocent internet users to falsely identify them as the gunman and then claim that he was transgender. Right? As I said, this is another attempt to not focus on the real issue here. So, and like I said, this type of foolishness happens after mass shootings. My question is this: why is mass death tolerated in America? Why? Oh, it's tolerated. How's it doing, How you doing, Monica 73? Just Monica 73. I say that it's tolerated because it continues to happen. Just 9 days ago, we had mass murder in Buffalo at a supermarket. And we can continue to go back and point to incidents where it is tolerated. I say tolerated because nothing happens. Nothing is done to change it, to prevent it, to try to do something about it. Nothing. Most people have kids in their lives, whether it's their children, whether it's their grandchildren, whether it's your nieces or nephews. You have some kids in your life, and you had to feel something when you saw or you heard that there was another shooting, a mass shooting at an elementary school of some fourth graders. You had to feel something. You had to. So will Congress act on guns after Sandy Hook, after Buffalo, after what happened in Texas yesterday? It's up to us to put the pressure on them. Because if we continue to let this happen and we don't light a fire under the asses of our politicians, then we're letting it happen too. Because if we continue to let politicians sit on their hands when they can attempt to do something. They're not attempting to do anything. They're just saying, oh, nothing can be done. Nothing can be done. And I give you a good evening. I give you incidents after incidents when it is much less of an issue and they try to do something. But when it comes to money, NRA, I know, providing the money. When it comes to money, I know we have oil spills. You know, they don't want to do anything about big oil. They don't want to do anything about big tobacco. They don't want to do anything about this, you know, because they're putting money in their pockets. I understand that. But at the end of the day, we have to decide what happens. We have to decide who we put in office. And if they're not doing a good job, if they're not doing any job for us, then we need to get them up out of there. We need to get them up out of there. And we are fast approaching the time when we can do that. We have a general election in November. We're going to have another big election in 2024. We need to start getting some of these people out of office who are not doing anything to help their fellow men and women around this country. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok, at The Diamond K Show, of course, on fire-tv.com. djddiamondk@gmail.com is how you get in touch with me. I'm going to be here tomorrow, of course, 6 p.m. And if you miss any episodes of the show, anywhere you get podcasts, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spotify. Did I say SoundCloud? YouTube.com/DJ Diamond K, of course, on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter. You can check me out. And as I said, I will be back on tomorrow, 6 p.m. right here. Your man Diamond K. And like I said, let me know your thoughts in the comment section.